Matt Hall here with Derek Young of K-State Online from another Tuesday at the Veneer Football Complex. K-State met with the media in advance of Saturday's game against Texas San Antonio. I don't know that K-State sounded like a shaken team to me from a coaching or player perspective. I think they're still confident, Derek, but a lot still to work on. What jumped out at you today that they talked about, and what are you looking to see in week 2 to show improvement in this team?
They talked about, well, Bill Snyder talked a lot about the defensive front for Mississippi State and how good they are. I think that was kind of his subtle way of telling that there might have been a talent disparity in that way. But at the same time, they said that they saw a bunch of little mistakes on film that if he cleaned up, the game probably looks a little bit better than what it did.
The defense obviously did struggle against Mississippi State. Snyder wasn't happy with it, considering the fact they ran some schemes similar to what K-State did. In your expert opinion, because I consider you an expert, what did K-State struggle the most with defensively on Saturday, and what position needs to get much, much better this coming week?
It was just not protecting the middle of the field against the draw. If it was the running back, the quarterback, the middle of the field was always open for that draw, and they got, it seemed like 12 yards to carry on those types of runs in particular. And obviously that's concerning because you see a lot of that in practice, or you would expect them to. And Bill, like you said, Bill Snyder made note of that. And I thought the spot on the field, the position on the field, they kind of struggled the most or were displaced the easiest was definitely the defensive tackles.
After a defensive performance like that, you'd have to assume the team wanted back on the field right away, which is exactly what linebacker Sam Sizlove told us this afternoon.
I pretty much, the moment you step off the field, you wish you could get back on and, just get back out there and prove, that our defense can be great if we just do our jobs. And, when you watch that film on Monday, it's just you wish you could go back and take back snaps. But, that's not the way it goes, and that's college football, and we just got to learn on this.
You talked about defensive tackle, Derek, and the struggles there. They did make a switch of positions this week. The past week, Joe Davies did not start. Jordan Mitty did. Is that a position where you could see them going back a different direction to make something happen at that position?
I would think, especially if Bill Snyder called out the pass rush a little bit, wasn't where he wanted, and I think Joe Davies supplies that for you. And we thought he played particularly well in week 1 anyway, so it was kind of a surprise to see Jordan Mitty replace him in the starting lineup. And I know you're high on Joe Davies, and Mitty didn't performed the best either. I think he was one of the top, bottom guys according to Pro Football Focus in terms of performance on the defensive side of the ball, while Joe Davies was one of the best in week 1. So it would definitely not shock me to see Joe Davies out there in a starting role next week.
We talked to Joe Davies today, and perhaps somewhat surprisingly, he didn't sound like a guy who's lost any confidence in himself or in this defense.
Our confidence level hasn't changed at all. Like, if anything, it's boosted up a little bit because we're more prepared. Like, we know what we got to fix, and we're ready to work into getting that fixed.
We got the most definitive statement we've got all year on the quarterback position. Bill Snyder did say Skylar Thompson would start on Saturday, after stating Monday on the Big 12 conference call that they would more or less go with a more traditional idea of the starting quarterback and not switch unless necessary. Did you get the sense of that today, that Skylar's kind of their guy going forward, and is that the right thing for them to be doing?
I think it was the most unequivocal statement he had for a starting quarterback so far this season, and I definitely think that's the right thing to do, because I think Skylar Thompson performs, whether you can judge that or whether it should be like that or not, I think he performs better when he doesn't have as much looking over his shoulder or have to worry about a mistake that he's going to make. He looks like he plays a little bit tentative out there. Maybe he holds some balls that he would normally uncork loose. So I think it's great for Skylar Thompson. I think it's great for this team. I think they need a little bit more continuity, and I think the reps, hopefully he's getting the majority of reps, because I had someone reach out this week that is familiar with this program, familiar with quarterback play, and they suggested that Skylar Thompson did look like a quarterback that just hadn't got enough reps yet and was looking over his shoulder. So if the worm's starting to turn here in terms of that, he's running out of excuses, and he's just got to play ball.
Well said. I think rhythm is the big issue for this offense right now. Zach Reuter told us as much this afternoon.
We haven't had that click yet, and once we do, I think we can really start going, getting a rhythm, and moving a lot better as an offense.
Obviously an opponent K-State should have a much easier time with this week than last week. UTSA was competitive at times against Baylor, really not against Arizona State, a team K-State's significantly better than. So Derek, what do you expect this week? You don't have to give me a score, but do you expect to see a much better K-State team this week, or will the struggles continue?
I don't think the struggles will continue, but I still think they're going to be a work in progress, and you'll probably see it that way after the game, but also acknowledging some improvement that they made, and hopefully that'll be on the offensive side of the ball, because that's really the one spot where I think you can attack UTSA, they've been kind of poor on the defensive end, to say the least. So if any side of the ball can take the big step forward this week, it needs to. It's the offense, and they have an opportunity to do that against UTSA.
For Grant Flanders and Derek Young, I'm Matt Hall of K-State Online. Tell your friends.